Jake Morrison was not having a good day. He had woken up at 5 in the morning because the water recycler in Section C was making that strange noise again. He had spent 4 hours fixing it while floating upside down in a maintenance tube. Then he had missed breakfast because someone had clogged the food synthesizer with what appeared to be an attempt to make pizza. Now, covered in grease and smelling like recycled water, he was being told to report to the Galactic Integration Council Embassy immediately. Did they say why? Jake asked his captain through the communicator. Something about your repair work on their atmospheric processors last month, Captain Kevin Marsh replied. Just go, Morrison. And maybe take a shower first. Jake sighed. He had been working on the Starship Horizon's Edge for 3 years now. It was a good ship, a solid ship, and he knew every pipe and wire inside it like he knew his own hands. He was the chief engineer, which sounded impressive, but mostly meant he was the one who got called at 5 in the morning when things broke. He was 32 years old, had no wife, no children, and his only real companion was a ship's cat named Grease, who had adopted him 2 years ago. Jake was fine with this. He liked quiet. He liked machines. Machines made sense. They broke, you fixed them, and they worked again. People were not so simple. After a quick shower and a change into his dress uniform, Jake took a shuttle to the embassy station. The Galactic Integration Council was a group of alien species who had decided, about 50 years ago, that humans were interesting enough to include in their little club. Since then, humans had been slowly learning that the galaxy was much bigger and much stranger than they had ever imagined. The embassy station was a massive ring that floated in neutral space. It had sections designed for hundreds of different species. Jake walked through corridors where the gravity shifted, where the air changed temperature, where strange smells and stranger sounds filled his senses. He had been here before, but it still made him feel small. A robot guide led him to a conference room. The room was plain, with white walls and a single long table. Jake expected to see a group of alien officials waiting to discuss his repair work. Instead, he saw one tiny alien standing on the table. She was small, very small, maybe 12 inches tall at most. Her skin was a soft lavender color, and she had 4 arms, each ending in delicate fingers. Her eyes were huge and golden, taking up most of her face. She wore a tiny uniform that looked official, with small medals pinned to her chest. And she was smiling at him with an expression that made Jake immediately nervous. "Ah, human designation Jake Morrison," she said. Her voice was high but clear, like a small bell. "Please, sit down." Jake sat. He was very confused. "I am Zira of the Valori people," the tiny alien continued. "I am a certified cultural integration specialist, 3rd class. I have spent the last 2 standard years studying your species." "That's nice," Jake said slowly. "Is this about the atmospheric processors? Because I can explain the modifications I made." "This is not about atmospheric processors." "Oh." Jake waited. Zira picked up a small tablet and began reading from it. "According to Galactic Integration Council records, you are a human male, age 32 standard years. You have no registered partner, no offspring, and your social interaction scores are significantly below average for your species." "My what scores?" "You do not talk to people very much," Zira translated. "This is concerning." Jake frowned. "I talk to people. I talked to Captain Marsh this morning. You asked him about a water recycler. That counts." Zira shook her head. Her golden eyes looked sad, like she was watching a sick animal. "Human, you do not understand. We have studied your species extensively. Humans are social creatures. You require companionship, emotional connection, and physical proximity to others. Without these things, humans become depressed, unproductive, and eventually ill. This is scientific fact. Jake opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He was not sure she was entirely wrong. The Galactic Integration Council has determined that your current state is unacceptable, Zira continued. You are a valuable engineer, and we cannot allow you to deteriorate. Therefore, a solution has been found. What kind of solution? Zira put down her tablet. She straightened her tiny uniform. She looked Jake directly in the eyes. Humans need wives all the time, she announced. And you have been assigned a wife. And it is me. Then she grinned. It was a very wide grin. Jake stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who was sure he was dreaming. I'm sorry, he said. I think I misheard you. You did not mishear me. I am now your wife. According to Galactic Integration Council Directive 774, subsection 12. Regarding the emotional welfare of valuable personnel. You can't just assign someone a wife, Jake said. We can, and we did. I don't even know you. You will know me. I will be living with you. Living with me? Jake stood up so fast his chair fell over. On my ship? In my quarters. Correct. This is insane. Zira tilted her head. Many humans have told me this about many things. I have learned that when humans say something is insane, they often mean they do not understand it yet. Jake ran his hands through his hair. This was not happening. This could not be happening. He looked around the room, expecting someone to jump out and tell him it was a joke. No one did. Look, he said, trying to be calm. Miss Zira, I appreciate whatever this is supposed to be, but I don't need a wife. I'm fine. I have my work, I have my ship, I have my cat. I'm perfectly happy. Your cat is named Grease, and you talk to him more than you talk to any living being on your ship, Zira said. Last week, you wished him happy birthday. Cats do not have birthdays they understand. How do you know that? I told you. I have been studying you. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. For how long? 2 years. 2 years? Zira nodded cheerfully. You are my research subject. I wrote 3 papers about you. You are very interesting, Jake Morrison. You work harder than any human I have observed. You are kind to small creatures. You sing old songs when you think no one is listening. And you are very, very lonely, even if you do not know it. Jake did not know what to say. He felt exposed, like someone had read his diary. Except he did not have a diary, and somehow that made it worse. This is not negotiable, Zira said, her voice becoming more official. The directive has been approved at the highest levels. I will be joining you on the horizon's edge. I have already packed my belongings. She gestured to a tiny suitcase sitting on the table. It was smaller than Jake's hand. My shuttle leaves in 1 hour, Zira continued. You may return to your ship and prepare a space for me. I require very little room. A shelf will be sufficient. Jake looked at the tiny alien. She looked back at him with those huge golden eyes, still smiling. This is really happening, isn't it? He said quietly. Yes, husband. It is. Jake Morrison left the conference room in a daze. Behind him, Zira picked up her tiny suitcase and began to hum a song she had learned from studying human entertainment broadcasts. She was very excited. Her human had no idea what was coming. The crew of the Horizon's Edge had seen many strange things in their years of space travel. They had seen planets made entirely of crystal. They had seen creatures that lived in the hearts of stars. They had once encountered a species that communicated only through interpretive dance. But nothing had prepared them for the sight of their chief engineer walking onto the ship with a 12-inch tall, purple alien sitting on his shoulder. Morrison. Captain Kevin Marsh said slowly, "What is that?" "This is my wife," Jake replied. His voice was flat, like a man who had accepted his fate. "Hello, Captain," Zira said brightly. "I am Zira of the Valori. I have been assigned to care for your engineer's emotional well-being. Please, do not worry. I will not interfere with ship operations." The bridge was silent. Every crew member was staring. Amy Lawson, the chief navigator, had frozen with a coffee cup halfway to her lips. The communications officer, a young man named Danny Price, had dropped his tablet. "Morrison," the captain said again. "Please explain." Jake explained. It took about 10 minutes. By the end of it, Amy was crying with laughter. Danny had picked up his tablet only to drop it again. And the captain had developed a twitch in his left eye. "So the Galactic Integration Council decided you needed a wife," the captain repeated. "Yes." "And they assigned you this." "Alien." "Yes." "And you couldn't say." "No, apparently not." Captain Marsh looked at Zira. Zira smiled at him. It was a very enthusiastic smile. "Wow," the captain said finally. "I've seen stranger things. Morrison, she's your responsibility. Keep her out of trouble." "I will be no trouble at all," Zira assured him. "I am here only to support my husband." The captain walked away, muttering something about retirement. The first day was not too bad. Zira spent most of it exploring Jake's quarters, which she found fascinating. She examined his collection of old Earth books. She studied his photographs. She spent an hour watching Grease the cat sleep. "He is magnificent," she announced. "His fur is the color of engine oil. A perfect companion for an engineer." Grease opened one eye, looked at the tiny alien, and went back to sleep. He has seen stranger things too. Jake tried to work. He had repairs to make, systems to check, a ship to keep running. But every few minutes, Zira would appear with a question. "Jake, what is the purpose of this object?" She was holding a toothbrush. "It's for cleaning teeth." "Ah, human teeth require maintenance. Fascinating." "Jake, why do you have so many socks?" "Because I wear them, but they do not match." "Is this a human fashion statement?" "No, I just lost the matching ones in the laundry." "Jake, this book is about a man who fights a whale." "Why does he fight the whale?" "It's complicated. The whale bit off his leg. So it is a revenge story. Humans are very passionate about revenge." By the end of the first day, Jake was exhausted. But he had to admit, it was nice to have someone to talk to. Even if that someone asked 100 questions an hour. The trouble started on day 3. Jake woke up to find Zira standing on his chest, holding a small measuring device. "Good morning, husband," she said. "I am measuring your breathing patterns. You snore at a frequency of 42 hertz. This is within normal human range. Please don't stand on my chest." "Of course." "I apologize." She climbed down to the pillow instead. "I have prepared breakfast for you." Jake sat up and looked at the small table in his quarters. There was a stack of something on a plate. A very tall stack. "What is that?" "Pancakes," Zira said proudly. "I have learned that humans enjoy pancakes for breakfast." "This is a pancake tower ceremony." "A what?" "In human entertainment broadcasts, I observed that families often create tall stacks of pancakes to celebrate mornings. I have created 17 pancakes for you." Jake looked at the tower of pancakes. It was leaning dangerously to one side. The pancakes themselves looked slightly green. "Why are they green?" "I added nutrients. Humans require vitamins." Jake took a careful bite. It tasted like cardboard mixed with grass. "How is it?" Zira asked eagerly. Jake looked at her hopeful face. Those big golden eyes were watching him with such excitement. "It's great," he lied. "Really great." Zira clapped all 4 of her hands together. "Wonderful. I will make them every morning." Jake ate the entire stack. It took him 20 minutes and a lot of water, but he finished it. He told himself it was because he did not want to hurt her feelings. He did not think about why her feelings mattered to him. The second incident happened that afternoon. Jake was in a meeting on the bridge, discussing the ship's upcoming mission. Captain Marsh was explaining that they would be traveling to a remote sector to chart some unexplored planets. It was routine work, nothing exciting. In the middle of the meeting, Zira climbed onto Jake's shoulder. Everyone stopped talking. "What are you doing?" Jake whispered. "I am providing emotional support," Zira whispered back. "I read that human males perform better in work situations when they have emotional support from their partners. I don't need emotional support." Your heart rate increased when the captain mentioned deadlines. "You are stressed." "I'm not stressed." "Your left eye is twitching." "That's not stress, that's you." Amy Lawson could not contain herself anymore. She burst out laughing, coffee spraying across her console. Danny Price had to leave the room because he could not stop giggling. Captain Marsh sighed. "Morrison, could you please control your wife?" "She's not really my wife." "I am really his wife," Zira corrected. "We have documentation." The meeting continued with Zira sitting on Jake's shoulder like a tiny purple parrot. Every few minutes, she would pat his head and say encouraging things like, "You are doing very well, husband, and your engineering knowledge is impressive." Jake wanted to die of embarrassment, but somewhere deep inside, in a place he did not like to examine, he felt something warm. The third incident happened that night. Jake was working late in the engine room, as he often did. He liked it there when it was quiet, just him and the hum of the machines. He was welding a patch onto a coolant pipe when he heard small footsteps behind him. "You should be sleeping," he said without turning around. "So should you," Zira replied. She climbed up onto his workbench and sat down, her tiny legs dangling over the edge. "Why do you work so late?" "Because things need to be fixed. They can be fixed tomorrow. If I wait until tomorrow, something might break. If something breaks, people might get hurt." Zira was quiet for a moment. "You care about this ship very much. It's my job." "No," she said softly. "It is more than a job for you. This ship is your home. These people are your family. You take care of them because you love them." Jake stopped welding. He did not look at her. "You are not lonely because you do not have people," Zira continued. "You are lonely because you do not let them see you. You hide in your work. You hide in your engine room. You love them from a distance, where it is safe. You don't know what you're talking about. I have watched you for 2 years, Jake Morrison. I know exactly what I am talking about." Jake finally turned to look at her. In the dim light of the engine room, her golden eyes seemed to glow. "Why did you really volunteer for this assignment?" he asked. Zira smiled, but it was a sad smile this time. "That is a story for another night. For now, you should rest. I have been told that humans become irritable when they do not sleep enough." She jumped off the workbench and headed toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back. "Good night, husband. You did good work today." She left. Jake stood alone in the engine room for a long time, thinking about what she had said. Then he put away his tools and went to bed. For the first time in years, he did not feel like being alone. 3 weeks had passed since Zira came aboard the Horizon's Edge. Jake had grown used to finding tiny footprints in unexpected places. He had grown used to waking up to the smell of slightly wrong pancakes. He had even grown used to having a small purple alien sitting on his shoulder during meetings, whispering encouragement into his ear. He had not grown used to how much he enjoyed it. The crew had accepted Zira quickly. Amy Lawson had appointed herself as Zira's unofficial human culture teacher, which mostly involved showing her old movies and explaining jokes. Danny Price had built her a tiny chair that clipped onto the edge of consoles so she could sit comfortably during bridge shifts. Even Captain Marsh had softened. occasionally asking Zira for her opinions on alien species they encountered. "She's actually quite useful," the captain admitted one day. "The Valori know more about galactic politics than anyone. She saved us from 3 diplomatic disasters already. She told the ambassador from Varric Prime that his robes were pretty," Jake pointed out. "Apparently, that's a great compliment in their culture. We got a trade discount." It was a Tuesday when everything changed. Jake was eating lunch in the mess hall with Amy and Danny when Zira came running in. She was moving fast, faster than Jake had ever seen her move. Her tiny legs were a blur. Her face was pale. She climbed up Jake's arm and grabbed his collar with all 4 hands. "What's wrong?" Jake asked immediately. "There is a distress signal," Zira said. Her voice was shaking. "From a Valori research vessel. The ship is called the Starlight Seeker. My sister is on that ship." "Your sister?" "Tilla. She is a xenobiologist. She studies alien life forms. She is younger than me. She is kind and gentle, and she has never hurt anyone." Zira's golden eyes were filling with tears. "The Kreth Dominion has attacked her ship." The mess hall went silent. Everyone knew about the Kreth Dominion. They were a brutal empire that expanded by conquering weaker species. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. Smaller species either surrendered and became slaves, or they were destroyed. Jake stood up, spilling his food. "Where's the captain?" "Bridge," Amy said, already running. They reached the bridge in minutes. Captain Marsh was standing in front of the main screen, his face grim. The screen showed a map of local space, with a blinking red dot marking the distress signal. "The Starlight Seeker is approximately 4 hours away at maximum speed," the captain said. "The Kreth have them surrounded. 3 warships. We have to help them," Zira said. She was still clinging to Jake's shoulder, trembling. Captain Marsh shook his head. "The Horizon's Edge is an exploration vessel. We have minimal weapons. Those Kreth warships would destroy us in minutes. So we just let them die?" Jake demanded. "I didn't say that. I said this isn't a fight we can win with force." The captain turned to his crew. "Does anyone have any ideas?" The bridge was quiet. Jake could feel Zira shaking against his neck. He thought about her sister, someone he had never met, trapped on a ship with monsters closing in. He thought about all the times Zira had sat with him in the engine room, talking about her people, her home, her family. He thought about how she had made him feel less alone. "I have an idea," he said. Everyone looked at him. "The Kreth ships are fast and powerful, but they're old models. I've seen the schematics. Their sensor systems have a blind spot in the lower frequencies. If we approach from below and keep our engines at minimal power, we might be able to get close without being detected." "And then what?" the captain asked. "We can't fight them. We don't need to fight them. We need to get their attention. If I can get onto one of their ships, I can sabotage their weapon systems from the inside. Without weapons, they'll have to retreat." "That's suicide," Amy said. "You're talking about boarding a Kreth warship alone." "Not alone." Danny Price stood up. "I'll go with him. I know Kreth computer systems. I can help." "Me too," said a voice from the back. It was Lisa Monroe, the ship's security chief. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a scar across her jaw. "I've fought Kreth before. I know how they think." One by one, crew members stood up. Engineers, scientists, even the ship's cook. They were all willing to risk their lives for a species they had never met. Captain Marsh looked at his crew for a long moment. Then he turned back to Jake. "This is insane," he said. "Yes, sir," Jake agreed. "We'll probably all die. Probably." The captain smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was real. "Well then, let's go save some aliens." The next 4 hours were the longest of Jake's life. The horizon's edge moved through space like a ghost, engines barely whispering. On the bridge, everyone held their breath. One wrong move, one stray signal, and the Kreth would detect them. Zira sat on Jake's shoulder, silent for once. Her tiny hand rested against his neck, and he could feel her pulse racing. "We're going to get her back," Jake said quietly. "You don't know that?" "No, but I'm going to try." Zira looked up at him. "Why? You don't even know my sister." "You don't owe the Velori anything. This isn't your war." Jake thought about that. Why was he doing this? A month ago, he would have said it was stupid. Risking lives for strangers. Picking fights with empires. That was not the smart thing to do. But then he looked at Zira. He thought about her terrible pancakes and her endless questions and the way she made him feel like someone worth caring about. He thought about how she had volunteered to spend her life with him just to understand what made humans special. "You're my wife," he said simply. "That means your family is my family, and I take care of my family." Zira's eyes went wide. Then she did something she had never done before. She pressed her small forehead against his cheek and held it there. "You are a good human, Jake Morrison," she whispered. "Don't get used to it." They reached the battle zone without being detected. The Kreth warships hung in space like massive black sharks, circling the damaged Velori vessel. The Starlight Seeker was small, barely larger than the horizon's edge. Its hull was scorched from weapons fire. It was limping, broken, but still alive. "All right," Captain Marsh said. "Morrison, take your team and get to the shuttle bay. You launch in 5 minutes." Jake nodded. He turned to leave, but Zira grabbed his ear. "Wait, what?" She reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny object. It was a small crystal pendant on a thin chain. "This belonged to my mother," Zira said. "It brings luck." "Wear it. I can't take this." "You are my husband. You can take whatever I give you." She pushed the pendant into his hand. "Come back to me, Jake. That is an order." Jake looked at the tiny crystal. Then he looked at Zira. Then, without thinking about it too hard, he bent down and kissed the top of her head. "Yes, ma'am," he said. Then he ran to the shuttle bay. His heart pounding, his wife's good luck charm clutched in his fist. The Kreth would never see him coming. The shuttle was small and dark and very, very cold. Jake sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls, even though his heart was beating so hard he thought it might break his ribs. Behind him sat Danny Price, Lisa Monroe, and 3 other volunteers. Nobody spoke. There was nothing to say. They had cut the engines and were drifting toward the largest Kreth warship on momentum alone. No heat signature. No radiation. Just a tiny metal box floating through the endless black, invisible against the stars. 2 minutes to contact, Danny whispered. Jake nodded. He could see the Kreth ship now filling the viewport. It was enormous, at least 10 times the size of the horizon's edge. Its hull was covered in weapons and armor plating. It looked like something that had been built to destroy worlds, and they were going to fly right into it. The plan was simple. The Kreth had garbage ports on the underside of their ships, big openings where they ejected waste into space. These ports had minimal security because nobody was stupid enough to try to enter through them. Nobody except humans. "Contact in 30 seconds, Danny said. Jake aimed for the garbage port. It was a small target, maybe 20 feet wide. If he missed, they would crash into the hull and die. If he hit it wrong, they would be shredded by the port's grinders and die. If the Kreth detected them, they would be shot and die. A lot of ways to die. Only one way to succeed. 10 seconds. Jake did not blink. He did not breathe. He thought about Zira, sitting alone on the bridge, waiting for news. He thought about her sister, trapped somewhere on the Velori ship. He thought about all the people counting on him, The shuttle slipped through the garbage, poured like a needle through cloth. They were inside. "We're in," Jake breathed. "Everyone okay?" "Define okay," Lisa muttered. But she was already unbuckling her harness and checking her weapon. They had landed in a waste processing area. It was dark, and it smelled terrible, but it was empty. The craft did not waste soldiers guarding garbage. "Danny, where are the weapon controls?" Danny pulled up a map on his tablet. 3 levels up, central core. Heavy security. What about secondary systems? Anything we can hit on the way? Reactor cooling systems are on level 2. If we mess with those, the ship will have to reduce power to weapons or risk overheating. Good. Lisa, take your team and hit the cooling systems. Danny, you're with me. We're going for the main weapons. Lisa nodded. How long do we have? I don't know. The horizon's edge can only distract them for so long. Move fast, hit hard, get out. They split up. Jake and Danny moved through the Kreth ship like ghosts. The corridors were built for creatures much larger than humans, and they used this to their advantage, hiding in spaces too small for Kreth to follow. Twice they had to wait, pressed against walls, as Kreth soldiers marched past. The aliens were massive, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and gray leathery skin. They carried weapons that looked like they could punch holes in steel, but they did not look down. They did not expect enemies inside their own ship. Human trick number 1. Humans were small, but small meant invisible. They reached the weapons control center after 20 minutes. It was guarded by 4 Kreth soldiers and protected by a heavy door. Ideas? Danny whispered. Jake looked around. There was a ventilation shaft above them. Too small for Kreth, just right for humans. Follow me. They climbed into the shaft and crawled. It was tight and hot, and Jake's shoulders scraped against the metal, but they moved forward. After 50 feet, they reached a grate that looked down into the weapons control room. Below them, a dozen Kreth technicians worked at massive consoles. Screens showed targeting data, power levels, ammunition counts. This was the brain of the ship's killing power. I need 3 minutes to disable the targeting systems, Danny whispered. Can you keep them busy for 3 minutes? I can try. Jake kicked out the grate and dropped into the room. For a moment, everyone froze. The Kreth stared at the tiny human who had just fallen from their ceiling. Jake stared back at them. Then he smiled. Hi, he said. I'm here to fix your computers. The Kreth attacked. Jake ran. Human trick number 2, humans were fast. Not stronger than Kreth, not tougher, but faster and more agile. Jake dodged between consoles, ducked under grasping hands, and led the Kreth on a chase around the room. He was buying time. Every second precious. Danny dropped from the vent and went straight to the main console. His fingers flew across the controls. The Kreth had not even noticed him. 1 minute, Danny called out. A Kreth grabbed Jake's arm. Jake twisted, using the alien's own momentum to pull himself free, leaving his jacket behind. He rolled under a table, came up running, and jumped onto a chair just as another Kreth swung at him. 30 seconds. Jake was getting tired. His lungs burned. His legs ached. But he kept moving, kept dancing, kept the Kreth focused on him and not on Danny. Done. Danny slammed his hand on the console. Every screen in the room went red. Warning alarms blared. The Kreth turned away from Jake, confused, trying to understand what had happened. Let's go. Jake gasped. They ran. Behind them, the Kreth weapon systems were shutting down one by one. The great warship's teeth had been pulled. They were halfway to the garbage port when the ship shook. An explosion, somewhere in the lower levels. Lisa hit the cooling systems, Danny said. Good. Keep moving. They reached the shuttle just as Kreth soldiers flooded the waste processing area. Jake threw himself into the pilot's seat and fired the engines. The shuttle shot out of the garbage port, scraping against the edges, losing a piece of wing, but still flying. Behind them, the Kreth warship was in chaos. Without weapons, without cooling, it was helpless. Its sister ships moved to help, forgetting about the Valori vessel. "Captain," Jake said into the communicator, "now would be a good time." The Horizon's Edge appeared from hiding, moving at full speed toward the Starlight Seeker. The Kreth tried to respond, but their formation was broken, their flagship damaged. By the time they reorganized, it was too late. The Horizon's Edge docked with the Valori ship and began emergency evacuation. Jake piloted the shuttle alongside, protecting the escape. His weapons were small, but he used them well, targeting engines and sensors, keeping the Kreth confused. Lisa's shuttle appeared moments later, her team intact. "Everyone's aboard," Captain Marsh reported. "We're breaking away. The Kreth are regrouping," Danny warned. "Then let's not be here when they do. All ships, maximum speed now." The human ships fled into the darkness, leaving the Kreth behind. Jake did not relax until they were safely in hyperspace. Only then did he let go of the controls. Only then did he realize his hands were shaking. "We did it," Danny said, amazed. "We actually did it." "Yeah," Jake said quietly. "We did." When they returned to the Horizon's Edge, Zero was waiting in the shuttle bay. She was not alone. Next to her stood another Valori, slightly taller, with blue-green skin and the same golden eyes. Tella, Zero's sister. Zero ran to Jake the moment he stepped off the shuttle. She climbed up his body like he was a ladder and wrapped all four arms around his neck. "You came back," she said. Her voice was thick with tears. "I promised I would." Tilla approached slowly. She looked up at Jake with an expression of wonder. "You are the human who saved my ship," she said. "My sister's husband. That's me. We were told humans were violent, chaotic, dangerous. We were told to stay away from you." Tilla shook her head. "We were never told you were brave. We were never told you would risk everything for strangers." Jake felt embarrassed. "It wasn't just me. The whole crew helped." "Yes, that is what makes it remarkable. An entire ship of humans willing to die for a species they had never met." Tilla looked at her sister, still clinging to Jake's neck. "I understand now why you volunteered for this assignment. I understand what you saw in them." Zira smiled through her tears. "I told you, sister. Humans are special." "Yes," Tilla agreed softly. "I believe they are." The observation deck was quiet. Jake sat in his favorite chair, looking out at the stars. They had been traveling for 2 days since the rescue, heading toward a safe station where the Valori survivors could be treated. The Kreth had not followed. For now, they were safe. Zira found him there, as she always did. She climbed up to his shoulder and settled into what had become her spot, a small space between his neck and his collar where she fit perfectly. "You have been quiet," she said, "just thinking." "About what?" "About everything. About how close we came to dying. About how we almost lost your sister. About how many things could have gone wrong." Zero was quiet for a moment. "Do you regret going?" "No, not even a little bit." "Then why do you look so sad?" Jake took a deep breath. This was the part he had been avoiding. The conversation he knew he needed to have, but did not know how to start. "You told me something back before all this happened," he said. "You told me you would explain why you really volunteered for this assignment. I think it's time you told me." Zira's small body tensed against his neck. For a long moment, she did not speak. Then, slowly, she began. "The Valori are an old species," she said. "We have existed for millions of years. We were exploring space when humans were still living in caves. We have technology that your species cannot even imagine. And yet, we are dying. Dying? How? Not from disease or war. We are dying from caution. Zira's voice was heavy. We are so afraid of danger that we have forgotten how to live. We do not take risks. We do not fight for what we believe in. We do not love fiercely or hate passionately or feel anything deeply enough to hurt. She paused. When I was young, I asked my mother why we did not have heroes like other species. Why we did not have stories of brave warriors or great lovers or people who changed history. My mother said it was because heroes are dangerous. Heroes take risks. Heroes sometimes die. And the Valori cannot afford to lose anyone. That sounds lonely, Jake said quietly. It is. Very lonely. Zira shifted on his shoulder. I became a cultural researcher because I wanted to understand how other species lived. I studied many civilizations. But when I discovered humans, everything changed. What do you mean? Humans are impossible, Zira said. You live for such a short time, maybe 80 or 90 years. That is nothing. A Valori can live for thousands of years. And yet, in your tiny lifespans, you accomplish more than we do in millennia. You build empires and tear them down. You create art that makes people cry. You fall in love in days and stay in love forever. You fight wars over ideas, over beliefs, over people you have never even met. She looked up at him, her golden eyes bright. You burn. Jake, your entire species burns with a fire we cannot understand. And I wanted to know why. I wanted to feel what that was like, even if just for a moment. So you volunteered to be married to a random human? Not random. I studied many humans before I chose you. I watched engineers, soldiers, scientists, leaders. But you were different. You were kind to your cat. You worked hard, even when no one was watching. You were lonely, but you did not become bitter. You had all this love inside you with nowhere to put it. Zira touched his face with one tiny hand. I thought if I could learn from you, maybe I could bring something back to my people. Maybe I could teach them what it meant to truly live. I did not expect to actually care about you. I did not expect to fall in love. Jake's heart stopped. What did you say? I love you, Jake Morrison. I know it seems strange. I know I'm small and strange, and I cannot make pancakes properly. But I love you. I have loved you since the day you ate 17 terrible pancakes just to make me happy. Jake did not know what to say. His mind was racing. A month ago, he had been alone, happy with his machines and his cat, convinced he did not need anyone. Now there was this tiny purple alien telling him she loved him, and the terrifying thing was that he believed her. The more terrifying thing was that he felt the same way. Zira, he said carefully, I'm not good at this. I spend my whole life pushing people away. I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be anything except an engineer who talks to his cat. I know. I might mess this up. I probably will mess this up. I know that too. Then why are you still here? Zira smiled. It was the same smile she had given him on that first day, in that conference room, when she had announced that she was his wife. But now Jake understood what was behind it. Not mischief, hope. Because you are worth the risk, she said. That is what you humans have taught me. Some things are worth the risk. Jake looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something he had never done before. He lifted her off his shoulder and held her in both hands, bringing her close to his face so they were eye to eye. I love you too, he said. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but I do. You crashed into my life with your measuring devices and your cultural studies and your pancake towers, and somehow you made me want to be alive again. Zira's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? So I guess we should make this official. Make what official? This marriage thing. We should do it properly. Human style. Zira's smile grew so wide it seemed to split her face. I would like that very much. The ceremony was held on the observation deck, with the stars as witnesses. Captain Marsh officiated, reading words from an old Earth book that had been in his family for generations. The entire crew attended, packed into the small space, many of them crying. Even Grease the cat was there, held by Amy Lawson, looking bored but accepting his role in the proceedings. Tella stood beside her sister as the maid of honor, her blue-green skin glowing with happiness. The other Valori survivors had come too, curious about this strange human custom. When it came time for the vows, Jake spoke first. "I promise to take care of you," he said, looking down at Zira, who stood on a small platform so she could reach the right height. "I promise to eat your terrible pancakes without complaining. I promise to let you sit on my shoulder during meetings. I promise to never push you away, even when I'm scared. And I promise to show you every day what it means to live like a human, with all the fire and chaos and love that comes with it." Zira's turn came next. "I promise to always support you," she said, her tiny voice clear and strong. "I promise to keep studying you, because you surprise me every day. I promise to never let you be lonely again. I promise to teach my people about humans, about courage and love and sacrifice. And I promise that wherever you go, whatever you face, I will be right there on your shoulder, cheering you on." Captain Marsh smiled. "By the power vested in me as captain of this vessel, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Properly this time." The crew erupted in cheers. Jake bent down, and Zira jumped into his hands. He lifted her up and pressed his forehead against hers, which was as close to a kiss as their size difference allowed. "We did it," Zira whispered. "We did it," Jake agreed. Later that night, after the celebration had ended and the crew had gone to bed, Jake sat in the observation deck again. Zira was asleep on his shoulder, exhausted from the day's events. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and mysterious. A message arrived on Jake's communicator. It was from the Galactic Integration Council. To Human Designation Jake Morrison and Valori Designation Zira. Your recent actions in the Starlight Seeker rescue have been noted. The Council wishes to express its gratitude. Additionally, we have received requests from 17 other humans for similar partnership arrangements with Valori volunteers. It seems your example has started something unprecedented. Please advise." Jake laughed softly, careful not to wake Zira. Something unprecedented. That was one way to put it. He had just wanted to fix machines and avoid people. Now he was married to an alien, had started a galactic trend, and had become some kind of symbol for human-Valori relations. Life was strange. He looked down at Zira, sleeping peacefully against his neck. Her tiny hand was clutching the collar of his shirt, holding on to him even in her dreams. He thought about what she had said about the Valori, how they were dying because they had forgotten how to live. He thought about what she had taught him, how he had been dying too, in his own way, hiding in his engine room, afraid to let anyone close. They had saved each other. Maybe that was what love was. Two people who were broken in different ways, coming together and becoming whole. Maybe it did not matter that one of them was 12 inches tall and purple. Maybe love was bigger than size or species or anything else the universe could throw at you. Jake leaned back in his chair, watching the stars. For the first time in his life, he was looking forward to tomorrow. And somewhere in the vast, endless darkness of space, a human engineer and his tiny alien wife drifted among the stars. Proof that the universe was strange and wonderful and full of surprises. And that sometimes, the best things in life came in small packages.